welcome to the Espace Tricot podcast on what you could call our birthday episode.
It is. It's been 1 year since Naomi and I took over as new owners at the store. So, bestie.
Yeah! We made it! You made it! Thank you to everybody who got us here.
Yeah, we are so appreciative of everyone who stuck with us and also all the new people who've joined us. And of course, our amazing staff, our team here are incredible. We're feeling really grateful and lucky.
All the warm, woolly fuzzies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, we're podcasting more. We just did one. We're doing one again. We're going to try and really stay on it. We have a schedule and everything. So you'll be seeing more of us.
We just really enjoy doing this, and we've had such lovely feedback from all of you who watch and from who come into the store and who comment on Instagram. It just really helps us to feel that our community is really here, both online and in store, and it's just a lot of fun. So why not?
Yeah. I feel like in general this is like a great time of year. It's October. The weather is a-turning. The woolies are out.
It was chilly this morning.
I know. It's good. I wore gloves.
I should have worn gloves. And I was thinking, wow, I should have worn gloves.
So before we get into everything else, what's really cool is we have a special guest on the podcast today.
Who could that be?
I don't know. Should we introduce her?
Let's introduce her. Mona!
Ladies and gentlemen, Mona Schmidt, the famous Mona Schmidt, joining us on the podcast today. Welcome, Mona.
Welcome.
Hi. So basically, one of the reasons we invited you to come and join us is we really wanted you to show off your latest work in progress because it's fabulous.
Mona brought her whip in so that we could show it on the podcast, and then she also brought in a piece of this incredible birthday cake for me that she really made for her daughter Hannah. But it was a beautiful rainbow cake, and she turns up with this gorgeous whip and this rainbow cake, and we're just like, do you want to join us on the podcast?
Yeah.
So very impromptu.
Yes.
This is why I'm not wearing any knits, but please forgive me.
I think this will make up for any knits you're not wearing. Okay. So show us what you've got. And we are here to hold things too if you want.
Okay, I've got my Intarsia sweater that I'm knitting with the Piuma, which is a relatively new yarn we have in the store. And when it came in the 34 colorways, there are some that are named after food. So of course I had to pick those.
So take us through it.
Okay, chocolate.
Of course.
Of course. Then there is cinnamon.
Okay.
Those go well together. Then honey, pumpkin, it's fall, of course, and raspberry.
And you put these all together and they work so well.
Yes.
I think
coincidentally.
I think that's also one of the things about a really well curated palette with yarn is that, I think the 34 colors of the Piuma really work well together. And it just so happens that, even just going by this random, I'll take the ones that taste good.
Exactly.
You get this amazing color combination.
Yes.
So this is all Intarsia. Can I show the back?
Yes.
Okay. So.
Should I hold it up this way?
Yeah.
So this time around, I swore to myself I'm not going to leave 1,000 ends until the end. So I started weaving it in.
It looks amazing.
Very impressive.
And you might be surprised, but I'm doing it diagonally on the purl side.
Oh.
As it is the same color. And I kept turning around to see if you see it, and you really cannot see it on the right side.
Wow, that's so cool.
So it's going as you go. And so do you have a shape in mind for the sweater yet? Because I know you're designing this on the fly, right?
So what I had in mind is like a shorter version. Not quite crop, but shorter.
Yeah.
And boxy.
Yeah.
And the sleeves... maybe. The sleeves will also be in Intarsia.
Wow.
But long, but with some decreases at the wrist. So it's kind of a balloony sleeve. So it's going to be a quite voluminous sweater, but I think it's going to be fun to wear. It's really easy to wear.
And so cozy. This fabric is really light. It's labeled a bulky yarn. And we've listed what the company recommends on the website for the gauge, but we have found from swatching that we like it a little tighter for sweaters, around about 12. We spoke about this yarn on the last podcast, so you may remember what we were saying about pilling with these single ply merino yarns. It's good to knit them a little tighter to give them some extra strength.
Yeah, and
so
this is just perfect.
I'm knitting this actually to, it's 13 stitches.
Oh, okay, cool.
But I think 12 would be fine too. It's just I started it and I thought this feels really nice and drapey because I didn't want to get it, as it is a chunky, I didn't want to get it too bulky and not moving. Yeah. So I think this is just the right.
Yeah, it feels great.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, for that sort of pilling effect 13 is even better. It's going to really give it some good resistance. It's on the wall behind us, as we also spoke about last time. Still there, still beautiful. And we have another project coming up in it, so we have more to say about this yarn for sure.
Yeah, and also, I mean, these are all warm colors,
Yeah.
just with the pink as a cool tone in between, but there's so many other possibilities.
Yeah, you just pick with, you could pick
Yeah.
based on another theme of like, oh, flowers or, yeah.
Exactly.
And how do you decide what colours you place where? Are you kind of doing it on the fly?
On the fly and random, so not, of course, that two colors won't meet. So I actually don't know what's coming next.
And
it's going to be...
Is this going to be your Rhinebeck sweater is the question.
It's a chunky yarn.
It could
But
be.
Rhinebeck is less than 2 weeks away, so I don't know. I'm hoping. Yes, I'm hoping.
Okay.
And judging by how chilly it already is in Montreal, early in October, which didn't happen last year,
No, I know.
I think Rhinebeck could be chilly.
Here's hoping. Well, I am really excited to see this, whether it's done in 2 weeks or not. I love where it's going. Thank you for
Yeah, me
coming
too.
and
Thank you.
visiting to show us.
I'll take some driving shifts so you can do some last minute finishing if you need.
Well, if I'm not done next Friday morning, I think.
Yeah.
Fair.
No, but-
This would be a big project to bring with you traveling. If
Yeah.
you weren't done by Rhinebeck,
Yes.
you might
Yeah.
need something a little travel friendly.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you, Mona. Thanks for visiting.
thanks for
Maybe
having
we'll
me.
make
Lovely
this
to have you
a
on.
tradition.
Maybe, yes, that would be nice.
All right, we're going to snap you out.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to snap. Oh, that was so nice.
Like off the cuff
Yeah.
guest star.
I know. And
So much fun.
I feel like that gives you a sense of what life in our office can be like as well, like especially first thing in the morning when we're all checking in with our new stuff that we've been working on and we talk over each other and there's a lot of enthusiasm.
Look at this. Are you doing distance? What should I do next?
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But since we got started with whips, why don't we continue?
Let's keep going.
Okay.
What's on your needles?
Well, I'm still working on my crazy cabled Colourwork cardigan.
It's coming along like I couldn't even believe.
I'm
It's
so
just-
motivated.
Yeah.
So I think the last time I showed it, I hadn't actually applied any of the Colourwork yet. So get ready for this. Here is the back with the sort of diamond lozenge of knitting. And then in the front, I've cut that in half and put it here. And the reason I've got the button band on but no sleeves is that I realized in order to have a place to sew this into, I really needed the button band on to have a ridge. So that's what's kind of holding this edge of it. I need to do a little bit of cleanup work here at the top. So I'm learning a little bit as I go about how to treat the steeks. So I'm taking notes. I'm going to write it all up. And then I decided since I was that far in, I may as well add some buttons. These are from Dusty's Vintage Buttons in Rhinebeck.
They're
I'll bring
a
it
bit
up.
Sparkly.
Yeah, it's maybe an unusual choice for a cabled Aran weight, but I do feel there's a princessy vibe to this that I kind of wanted to work with. So I am adding whip stitch to my buttonholes in order to make them small enough for such small buttons. I think, really probably it should be a 15 millimeter button, and these are a bit smaller.
Right.
But it's worth the work to get exactly what you want.
And it's a beautiful example of how buttons can completely change the whole impression of a garment. My first thought with cables, with Colourwork, was like, do you want like a leather button? Those woven leather buttons,
Yeah.
quite large. And you could definitely go that way.
Oh,
But
totally.
when you were thinking of something different, we started thinking about like rhinestones and crystals and pearls.
Yeah.
And it actually brings something that is a little bit more high fashion couture. Like you'd see this in a department store floor,
Yes.
a high end department store floor, or a boutique from a brand you never heard of and somehow costs like $1,200.
Yes.
That's absolutely what's happening when you start to mix up the
Yeah,
styles.
different styles. And it's interesting because I was, speaking of high-end department stores, I had like some time to kill downtown and went and looked at some of the beautiful stuff in Holt Renfrew, which is sort of like our high-end department store. And this kind of embellishment on top of knits is everywhere. So I guess I knew in my heart that this was a moment. So as far as where I am in my progress, I have actually knit both my sleeves. One of them has been steam blocked and the other has not. And the reason I haven't sewn them on yet is because I do need to do the Colourwork inlay, and I think that's going to be a lot easier to do flat. So my next step now is to knit the pieces that go in the sleeves and this little piece here. And I'm like not even sure if I'm going to use the same chart or if I'm going to do something different. I'm thinking about grading the whole time that I'm working on it to making sure that whatever I'm doing can be replicated and that I can tell people how to do it in different sizes. So I think I'll probably get going on that this week, and I think I'm going to make it. I think this is going to be my Rhinebeck sweater.
It's just gorgeous. I'm blown away by you, Steph. Like, it just, I wasn't sure where it was going at first. I mean, I could think where it's going. You were very clear at communicating the design ideas. Like, you had it all planned out and you were able to communicate that well. But it wasn't until I was editing the podcast last week and I sort of saw it from a distance where you are with the camera on the screen that I thought, oh wait, that's how it comes together. And I realized just the way that the scale of this tight gauge dainty colourwork plays with these big Aran cables is just so well balanced and so innovative and creative. And I just can't wait to see this come together, and I know that people are going to want to knit this. And I can't wait to see what they do with it.
I know, me too. And I mean, it's kind of like the folly skirt again, where I'm like, is anyone going to want to knit this?
And then they do.
And then they do, and it's incredible.
Because sometimes we want a challenge, and
and there's no question, there's tons of knitters out there. I know you're out there who have all these skills, just like I do, of knowing how to steek, knowing how to do color work, knowing how to do cables. The only thing that putting them together kind of adds to that picture is just a little bit more finishing time and a little bit more care in assembly.
Yeah.
But for the result, so worth it.
And
I mean, not always what I want to do, but
it's true. And I mean, you have another project that you'll talk about later that was a bit of your antidote to this. But at the same time, you listed off all those skills that this takes. But it doesn't. You don't need to know those skills already to do this. It is not a beginner cable project or a beginner colourwork project in itself. But I think it would be the perfect beginner steeking project. Because it's a small bit. Oh wait, hang on. Explain why you think.
Okay, so here's why I think not.
I remember.
Because when you cut a steek, so if you've never cut a steek before, basically what happens is you work a series of extra stitches in your color work, 5 or 7 usually, and then you cut down the middle of those and you fold over that sort of waist. So it's almost like a selvage in a fabric. And because of the shape of what I've created, there's these little corners. There's a point where you're folding over 3 stitches and 3 stitches, and there's only 3 stitches in the middle. So you're really working with a lot of bulk.
Right.
So it's not so much necessarily about the cutting or the knitting. It's really feeling confident managing these raw edges that you're sewing and not being scared that it's going to unravel.
Right.
And I think when you're first starting on steeking, if anything, if it calls for 7 stitches or 5 stitches, do 7. Like, give yourself that extra space. You're going to be able to hide it. In this case, you can't. So you really can't use some of those little techniques that make it less scary. This is definitely like full scary. But it's Jamieson, and it basically doesn't unravel. Like, these have been sitting in my bag. It's Spooktober.
When is the best time of year for a bit of a scary project to take on?
I mean, I guess the thing is, until you've done it a couple times too, you can't believe it's not going to unravel. But it doesn't. It's felted in there, and it's really, really toothy. But it is a little terrifying the first couple times you do it. Don't try it with superwash. At least it's not the first time.
All over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I'm fully in that like zone of focused just on this whip at the moment. So I don't have anything else on my needles to show at the moment. That's my whip.
So I've been wanting to try our Banque Tricot Happy 4-ply with the Bliss Mohair since we even thought about dyeing yarn at all, and I didn't want to rush too fast into a project because, as I talked about a little bit before on podcasts, sometimes I make decisions too quickly and they're not quite right and I frog back, and I didn't want to do that with this. I wanted to feel like I'd chosen the right project for the right yarn and just have an enjoyable, productive time knitting something quite simple and wearable. So instead of going for another gingerbread, which is the top-down basic raglan structure that I love, I hunted around a little bit for a drop shoulder, which I don't knit that often, but I love to wear. And as many of us know who knit drop shoulders, at some point you generally have to knit quite a bit flat. And that's okay, I don't mind knitting stuff flat, but my tension is quite different flat from in the round, and I didn't want to risk having a big chunk of the sweater at a different gauge from another, or figuring out if I had to change needle size by 0.25 millimeter or something. So I found a top-down contiguous sweater that works the shoulders in the round, and also works the sleeve cap in the round. So often with contiguous sleeve sweaters, of which there are a few patterns out there, you'll knit up to this point, the shoulder join in the round, and then you'll knit the front flat and the back flat, and then join in the middle. This has you increasing for the shoulder, for the sleeve cap as you go.
Is this truly, I guess it is a drop shoulder. It almost has set-in sleeve, but not quite.
Almost. It's a little bit between the two because it is shaping in this sleeve cap. It's not just a straight line and then knitting straight out at a right angle. It's a gorgeous shaping. It's incredibly clearly written, and it just has me thinking, like, this is what I want to wear. It's also, like, it's so creative that she came up with this. So
who is the designer?
The designer is the Dropp sweater, Dropp with 2 P's, by the designer Albiona McLaughlin, and I hope I've pronounced that correctly. And I guess I can't say if she invented this structure, but clearly it is very well finessed and clearly communicated, and I was looking on Ravelry for a long time and I didn't find anything quite, or at least nothing that seemed to be.
Here, keep talking. I'm gonna get this up towards the camera so you can see this beautiful shaping.
It's one of these things in knitting, you know, like so many constructions are so old.
Yes.
And
there's nothing new under the sun, really.
Passed around through so many knitters before patterns were even really written down. But it is the first time that I have seen anything quite like this, and I think it's going to be really successful.
And which color is this?
This is the color Brick in Happy 4-ply, and Brick also in Mohair. And because of the greyish base of the Happy, it's got a darker tint to it that the bricks, that the Mohair softens. So you're getting this really interesting effect. It's not variegated, it's not quite heathered, it's just this lovely melange from having a darker base on the solid.
It's incredibly beautiful.
And it's at 18 stitches, which is knitting up really nice and quick. So that's that. Can't really say more about a very simple top-down sweater other than that it's, if you like drop shoulder sweaters, it's a really good pattern to try for another take on the construction.
That's great. And it's great to hear that a designer that's new to you, that has a great pattern that you are enjoying following, that you're finding easy to follow. I always love to hear that because I'm always eager to try new people, and a great recommendation from a friend is always good.
There we go.
Yeah. So
How's in my looking Christmassy in my Hide and Hammer bag, which is a solid 2.5 years old at this point, still going strong.
Looks great. Is that so that's your only whip?
Really, I mean, aside from some languishing things, I'm still crocheting here and there on the cardigan I mentioned last week.
Well, because I kind of actually wanted to slip back in with a little whip of mine.
Ooh, yeah.
Which, I don't know, you may have noticed that I suddenly have like 7 more inches of hair and that it's considerably darker. So I've been sort of, like Naomi knows this, I've been trying to figure out my hair situation for a couple of years, and I've got little things that I can put on top, but I'd never gone for like the full wig. It's the W word. And I finally did it. I pulled the trigger a little bit impulsively. So that's what this is, and it is. I say it's a work in progress because I still want to get it colored, and I'm learning about how to wear it and how to like hide all the little things. But I felt good enough about it to wear on the podcast, and I'm enjoying doing a lot of hair flipping, which I haven't been able to do since I was like 12. So yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge it, and I'm sure that there are people out there watching who are going through the same thing, because every time I mention this to anybody, I'm like, oh, actually, my hair is thinning. Suddenly it's like, everyone's like, well, let me tell you. So if you have any favorite YouTubers or tips on places where I can find good technique, you can shout that out in the comments. I will be following.
I think it just looks fantastic. It's been, I think today was the first time I saw you wearing it, and like with any sudden change in somebody who you see every day in their appearance, it was sort of like something to get used to, like I have to get used to my own hair when I cut it, like I did a couple weeks ago. But it fits you. It's working.
Yeah, I mean, same. Like every time I kind of put it, I'm like, oh right, like that's a really different look. But I mean, it's not so far out. I have dark hair. This is dark hair. Once upon a time, I was able to grow hair this long. But it's just like learning how to care for it because it's so different. Anyway, I don't want to go on and on about it, but I didn't want to pretend like there's nothing to see here.
What's different about her?
I can't tell. Although what's funny is like the people who don't see me every day, they do respond with like, oh, did you color your hair? I'm like, yes. And I added like a lot. But it just makes you realize people are not thinking about what you look like as much as you are.
That's true.
Anyway, so that's my other whip. Let's move on.
So, final whip, which I just remembered, is another of our colleagues who kindly left it for us. Amalia has been knitting a very simple raglan, letting the yarn do the heavy lifting sweater in the Sandnesgarn Alpakka. And a little bit of sparkle from the Stellaris, which we loved last year, especially for holiday season. And
I'll get this closer.
time for it to come back.
So this is the beautiful Stellaris yarn that's like got a really subtle sparkle, and she went for this beautiful cobalt blue.
It'll just look so good on her.
Oh, this is so good on her. And so she's carrying it along. And you know, in typical Amalia fashion, when I asked for more information about the pattern, she was a little bit cagey, but basically said like, oh, any top down sweater you like, any top down sweater, just add some Stellaris. So there you go. This is in progress. We're hoping that Amalia maybe will wear this to our holiday party this year. We'll get to see a fully modeled version. But we really appreciate her leaving it for us to show off the podcast. But she promised she had other things to knit.
It really does show just how subtle the Stellaris can be.
Yeah, I don't know if you can
It's not a
see
novelty yarn. We've had trouble photographing it. It's just this really subtle shimmer that just makes it feel a little bit fancy, which I love.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah. And it's with the Sandnesgarn Alpakka, which we've had since last year, and I'm kind of just getting back into it this season. I had started a design that was kind of like simmering around, and I've sort of kind of taken it back up again, and Amalia was helping me with that too. And it's just a gorgeous machine washable 100% alpaca.
And it is. It's lovely because I can be a little bit like iffy with my alpacas. Sometimes I find they can feel almost cold, slimy is the word I've used.
Yeah.
And I find this one does not give me that vibe at all.
Not at all. It really just does have a soft, robust feel to it.
Yeah, actually really going for a blue theme. I
Yeah.
love it. Okay, so that's Amalia's whip.
So, in a natural progression from works in progress, shall we move on to finished
objects. Well, I see you're wearing something pretty cute.
I finished this on the weekend, and I thought just in time for our anniversary so that we could have matching sweaters. This is one of the earlier designs that you came up with. Well,
It was, yes. I reworked.
Revisited, as in an ownership role.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is called the Baccarat Banque sweater. I added the Banque at the end because there was an original Baccarat sweater that I had pre-published, and just 'cause the complications of relisting an old pattern, I was like, I'm going to do a new chart, I'm going to rework it and add some length and other things and republish it. So it's called Baccarat Banque, and it's a really excellent first color work project. My whole goal was is that there's no really long floats. The actual chart itself is quite narrow, so the repeat never gets enormous. But you can have lots of fun with color. I did a version where I used Noro Curion to just kind of let the yarn do the work. But this one is in Lamatweed by Camarose. And it's not a huge palette, but it's a super consistent palette. Like, you cannot mess this up. If you put these colors together, you're going to get something great.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Plus the main color?
Plus the main color. And basically, any 7 go. You could do a palette just of neutrals. There are some really gorgeous, subtly shifting neutrals in there. There are these pastel pops of color that work really beautiful on a pale base, on a dark base. And quite a few people have come into the store and picked colors out for this that just take it off piece a little bit and just still consistently work out. So.
Yeah, I gotta say, I don't say this lightly. Like, it's a design of mine where I don't think I've seen a bad FO. Like, everybody, whether it's the Lamatweed or not, I have not really seen one where I've been like, ooh, interesting choice. Like, it's just simple enough and geometric enough that you can really take it wherever you want it. I love this dark blue. It's called Marine Blanc.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's also out of stock at our distributor. But we're hoping to get it.
Was it that one or was it the lila?
No, it's this one.
It's this one? Okay.
So there's a couple colors that we're having trouble getting back in, but like I said,
the purple.
I don't think that you can mess it up. Like, have a look on what we have, and if this is on your coup de coeur list, you're going to be able to put together what you need.
And we can always help you with some suggestions from the ground, and there's also a chart in the pattern for a 4-color version.
Yeah, like main color and 3 contrasts.
If you want to tone it down, or if you want to bring in Curion to do some color changing instead, which we'll talk about a bit later. But I did want to take this chance to talk about how I went about switching colours out from what was already a very successful and proven pattern. And although I changed many of the colours I used, are similar to, we did another combination in a kit form that was good on a dark background. So
Yeah.
I had a look at that. I did want to shift it up a little bit, and some of the things I did were to look at the original pattern and see what Steph had done with tones of the same colour. So there's a section here with these little circles where Steph has done a darker blue on a lighter blue background. And I did end up using, is that the mint? Yeah.
Yes, that is the same.
Yeah, I did end up using the same pale blue colour, I just used it somewhere else. But when I went to look at these circles, I thought, okay, well, I will still stick with a dark and light tone of the same colour to get the similar effect. So that's how I ended up with the darker caramel and the lighter yellow. So that similar contrast is still there. And I went with a similar thing, flipping the salmon, which is rosa, and pudder colours.
Yeah, so you just...
Here, although I did these zigzags slightly differently. So, I mean, I don't have any sort of instructions for the mods on this. I did play around in software. There's a free site, Stitch Fiddle. We also have the app Stitch Mastery, which is excellent. I think it's something like £60, but you own the app for life. It's not one of these silly subscription things.
Yeah, it's a great value.
Fantastic value, even if you only just use it for playing around with Colourwork charts. It's something I found invaluable when I've been switching up colours in patterns before, like the Hello from My Colours crop, which you can see out of the corner of the frame here, where I used 7 colours instead of 4. And again there I just redrew the charts from the pattern and gradually added more colours in to play around and see what it would be like. So that is definitely a really low risk trial and error way of starting to play with Colourwork and make it your own, especially if you want to bring in more colours or you want to trim a few out and just see how successful that can be.
You know, another app you can use for that, if you're good with Excel, you can change the size of the cells to be a little square or even a little rectangle that's more reflective of what an actual knitting stitch looks like, and then you can fill the cells with colour.
That's true. I've now you say it, I've had friends who've put Excel charts in patterns.
Yeah, I think before
really well.
that's how a lot of people still do it, because it is really easy to duplicate and then change one color and just sort of see it in a bunch of iterations, and then you can kind of like almost layer them and see.
Swap colours
Yeah.
between each other. Yeah. So definitely worth playing around with before you get into either investing in yarn or investing time in knitting that yarn to see what works.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Well, I have a little FO to show.
Lovely.
So while I was working away on my cardigan, I just had an impulse cast on of this beautiful shawl that's called the Wool Weaver Shawl. Designer's name is Colourwork, and I can't remember her last name because her @ on Instagram is just Colourwork, but of course we'll link it.
Colourwork Hudson.
Colourwork Hudson,
I wrote
thank
this
you.
down in our notes.
Okay. So this is also the Piuma, the same yarn that Mona used for her Intarsia sweater. And I used basically a ball and a half for the body of this quick to knit shawl, and it's at 8 stitches, which is just a little bit tighter than the called for gauge of this shawl. And then I used Malabrigo Rasta as the contrast color here. So that's just done a little garter stripes, and then obviously these fabulous over the top tassels at the end. And same, there's these adorable little fringes in here. It's just so textural and fun, and it was so well written, so easy to knit.
Aww.
And I mean,
that's fantastic.
So, you know, if you're looking for a project that's going to be a really quick win, that you can just like a couple of sittings and you're done, which occasionally that's just exactly what you want. And it's so easy to follow. Also, even like the baubles, I think it was so well chosen, because just when you're thinking, I cannot knit another bauble, you're finished. So they're not everywhere. They're in this little section in the middle. I think it adds beautiful texture and focus without sort of making you think, oh my God, I can't knit another bauble.
And it really just is a fabulous statement to wear as well, with these adorable little mini tassels in between. And you said you used about half of the second ball.
Yeah. So you could even go heavier on the tassels if you wanted to, but I like the
or just keep going
a
little bit in garter if you wanted a bit more depth on the shawl.
Yeah. The reason I decided not to in the end, I had thought maybe I would, is that it's really perfectly balanced and symmetrical. And when I
right.
realized how symmetrical it was, I was like, I'm not going to mess with success
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw this on. I mean, it's obviously maybe a bit heavy around the neck to have both this and a turtleneck, but just to show you like
Oh,
how,
that's
and obviously I
fun.
haven't finished my ends, but like how
That's
adorable.
Just adorable.
Like who wouldn't want to wear this, receive it if you're
Yeah.
looking for a gift knit?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we may even do up some kits for this, you know.
It's so much fun to use a color changing yarn too in these, just to get a little bit of pizzazz.
Yeah, I love them. So anyway, that's my like,
That's so
what
fun.
a fun, successful, quick FO that like took my mind off the intensity of some of the math I was doing for the other sweater and left me feeling refreshed and ready for something on
like
tiny,
a
tiny
palette
needles.
cleansing.
Yes, absolutely. So that's my FO since
Super
last time.
fun.
All right, there we go. I'll put that right there for now.
Okay. I'm basically done. I just need the waistband done on this, and by the time I got to the end of 350 stitches on an I-cord bind off, I thought I don't think I can knit anymore, and so you know what I did to keep myself busy? I wove in the ends.
Don't even tell me. I still haven't woven mine.
So I think I win the folly skirt. No, I don't actually win the folly skirt. We had some action. Oh wait, did I weave? I don't think I wove that one in.
Oh, I thought from the way you just made that noise that something much more terrible had
Missed
happened than you
one.
missed one.
Well, I'm glad I didn't trim it too far.
Yeah.
I trimmed them just a little bit before I wet block, and then I'll trim them properly after I wet block, after they've had a time to settle. But I was going to say, I don't actually win the folly skirt because we did have an official knit along and I did not win it. So there's another winner of the folly skirt, but I did win my ends.
That was so fun to come to the end of that knit along and see all the beautiful projects.
Gorgeous.
I'm super honored that people spent this much time because it's a time intensive pattern, and
It is, and it's taken me the best part of basically that whole knit along. When did we start? Like early May, and I thought I'll join in too because you had leftovers from your skirt, and this is basically done with that. I think I added the dawn color in the La Bien-Aimée Corrie worsted because I had it left over from my Livresque cardigan, but yeah, I mean, make one with a friend. It's a big deal. It's a lot of yarn, but it's a beautiful impact. I know we've talked about the skirt already so much, so I'll keep it. I'll keep it brief. But basically, all that's left is my waistband. I'm really glad I've done this. It'll be really cute to wear it with you.
Yeah,
twirling around.
So that's something that
events.
we need to do is we need to set a time and a day for our Rhinebeck meetup on the hill. So we're inviting anybody who wants to come say hi, of course, but also anybody who wants to wear their folly skirt for a picture, even if you throw it on over your jeans for 5 seconds. We're going to do a group photo on the hill I think on the Saturday. We just have to pick our time. Yeah. Well, I'm really glad that we can wear those one day. We can wear these another day. Everyone will know we're the twinsies.
It'll just be magic.
Yeah, it's great. I'm so glad that you finished it.
Me too. That I finished it. The waistband will happen. That's like a couple evenings of knitting max.
Yeah. So I think you sent me a photo of this, and you were up at the family cottage when you finished this, right?
Yeah.
So what did you do about blocking it?
Well, I realized that I should have brought some blocking supplies along.
Yes.
Because I didn't. I realized, oops, congratulations me, I got through my goal this weekend of finishing these 2 projects that I've really been wanting to finish and getting the sweater done in time for the podcast. But then I finished them in a place that isn't my home, that, although it's very homely and, you know, I love the cottage, but the cottage doesn't have any ukulele in it.
Yeah.
So I was kicking myself because the thing is, we often think blocking takes up so much time and tools and space, but so many of the basic tools are really quite portable. So I realized I should just have like a little kit that comes with me when I think I have a project with the finish line in sight when I go on a trip. So I did a little tour of the shelves and I realized how much is out there that is really quite portable and lucky on the go. So we have kind of the 2 heavy hitters, the 2 MVPs of the soap, no rinse wool soap world, Soak and Eucalan. And I've picked up these tiny little bottles, even though they're very small and hard to see, because they're so portable.
And this is like I know Soak says this is 18 washes. It might even be more.
I think it's more.
I mean, you really don't need
goes a
very
long
much
way.
at all.
This is 100 mils. What is Soak?
I think it's 90.
90, great. So they even go through airport security in a carry-on. And they're just lifesavers as well for any kind of laundry you have to do. Hotel sink, and hang it on the towel rack, and you're good to go.
Yeah, because you don't have to rinse it out. So it kind of, you miss that step that can be, like, really gets water everywhere.
Yeah.
And it also smells really
They
nice.
smell really good. We have quite a few scents.
We have so many smells. Which is true.
I don't know about you, but
the scents. We have scentless as well. But
we also have no smell.
But these are, but wait, show the little guys.
Yeah,
These are
so
even better.
If you need even less soap on your even lighter packed journeys, we also have these individual packets of soak, which are also really great to get to just sample a scent before you commit to buying a bottle. We have bigger bottles even. Once you find a scent you like, you can pick up a whole big one.
Yeah, you go to the big one. But these are super great for even just like put one in your notions case.
It's true,
It's
yeah.
like, it's like having a Band-Aid in your purse, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Or in the little pocket of if some project bags have little pockets inside them. I don't know, maybe some people would be a little bit wary about storing them in the same place as scissors, just because you never know what bumps around and gets punctured. But if it does, I mean,
you can rinse it out.
You rinse it out. It's kind of a pain to wash soap off things, but it's not the end of the world.
But yeah, I wouldn't worry about having that in with my, my needles or something like that. Like in my little interchangeable pouch,
right.
I have a big pocket. I would put that in with those for sure.
So those are really portable. Should have had some with me. The other thing is, I realized the knit blockers. These are a really great little case. We should probably open them to have a display model again.
We don't have a display. We sold it.
We sold it.
Okay.
Because it's super popular and we couldn't get them for a while because of supply chain issues worldwide. Yada yada.
Well, rather than open this one right now on camera, I'll just say like these are basically like they're little combs that have like 5 or 6 pins on them that allow you to help you get really nice straight lines if that's what you need for your blocking. T-pins work great too. But
what this helps to avoid that T-pins, you can kind of have an issue with T-pins, is that when you're trying to do straight lines, you get the puckering.
Yeah.
And these avoid that because they're closer together and just really straight. So it's easy to put, instead of trying to put 5 pins in, you just put 1. Now, having said that, they do go best into foam mats. Like, we always recommend people go to the hardware store or kids stores that have like kids play mats or garage mats.
Or an old yoga mat that you're not using.
True, yeah. But they also work in a pinch in towels. So those are nice and portable too. And then finally, we have the Walcott wires, blocking tools. And I have never in my life seen blocking wires packed up so cute and so conveniently.
I know, it's so nice.
It's an adorable little pouch. And zip. Inside, you've got instructions, you've got space for other notions, and you've got T-pins, and these wires that are, which I will not unwrap because they're so beautifully tied up.
And they're quite flexible, so the idea is that you kind of feed them, especially for a shawl edge, like you feed them through the shawl edge and then use the T-pins to kind of keep them in a curve. They're really nice for curved pieces, but you can use them straight as well.
So I think I might grab a pack for the folly skirt because it does have a
curve to the edge, yeah.
A skirt.
A scurvy? It's a scurvy skirt.
And so, a few lengths. You've got these, I would just reuse those ties to wrap them back up again. We deal enough with interchangeable needle cables that these are no problem. So, and they have instructions in English and French. It doesn't actually say the shortest and the longest, but I think it does say online. So there's a link below. You can find out. Oh, does it say on the packaging?
There's 3 100-centimeter wires and 4 175-centimeter wires.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they're long. I mean, there's not much you couldn't block with that.
Yeah. So there you go.
So yeah, that's an idea. Like, fill up your kit with things that you'll need when you're on the road if you think you might block on the road. And it's because like I blocked this here at the store.
Oh, wow.
Because I finished at the store and I was like, well, why would I carry it all the way home in my bag when I need to put other knitting in my bag when I can leave it here on the weekend to dry? And of course, we have all this stuff here. We have mats and we have wires and we have pins and we have soap. But what we did not have was a very large bin to put it in.
Oh,
or like a nice towel to wrap it up in. So I was like, we need to do some shopping.
So, what is new and restocked?
Well, one thing I was thinking we didn't mention at all last time is our books and magazines, and we have a bunch of new stuff.
Yeah, because it's a new season. A lot of new issues have come out.
Yeah. So
let's do a book talk.
I have them all arrayed behind us. Why don't you chat while I grab some so that they're not...
Yeah. It's one of the things we love that really gets us in the mood for the next season is when the quarterly magazines start arriving. So we have a fairly new one in our lineup for crochet, which we've mentioned before, Morit. And we've got liner and we've got pom-poms. We've got a few things to talk about there. Now, I think we mentioned the first time we got Morit in on the podcast. I think we got issues 1 and 2 together because we were kind of catching up. And now we have issue 3, Autumn-Winter 2022. So this is produced in Scotland. It is entirely crochet focused. This might have one, I feel like I saw the press release said 1 knitting pattern this time.
I don't know. I admit, because I don't crochet, what I do is I look through and go, oh, Hannah should make that. Oh, Celeste should make that.
Well, one thing I do love about this magazine is that it is always really faithful in a very natural and elegant way to its inspirational or theme material. Like, often magazines have themes. Sometimes those can be really over the top and like making sure that you know what the theme is this month. Other time it's like, is the theme just beige? But it's not obviously sort of galactic and astronomical on the cover, but as soon as you start flipping through, you have these beautiful juxtapositions of patterns and galactic photos that are just really inspiring.
The color story in there.
Yeah. So I just find it really, like, on point and keys of...
Yeah, I agree. So that's one. The other thing that we have that's... it's been out for about a week, I think now, is the new issue of Lina. They took a little break from publishing and have come back with sort of a new look, a new feel, definitely a new vibe to the photography, which has always been very sort of naturalistic, a lot of nature settings in the past, and suddenly we see, cars, and we see this sort of broken down urban landscape. I'm loving it. You should put a shiny black car with your knitwear. I'm going to be all over it. And so these are actually the same magazine. They just have 2 different covers. So there's a black and white cover and a color cover. The inside photography is in color, of course. There's some of my favorite designers are in here. And as always, great content, great photography, beautiful patterns. So you can have a look through that.
Again, a whole lot more than just the sum of its parts in terms of written instructions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing we've done is we've launched pre-orders finally on our website. It really wasn't that hard. It was maybe a couple of days of poking around in the code and trying to figure out how to do it. So we are going to start offering pre-orders on Lina, Pom Pom, and other books and magazines. So one that's still in the pre-order right now, it's coming out on October 12th, is Ready Set Socks, which is by the fabulous Rachel Coopy, who's famous for her sock knitting, her designs, and even her sock yarn. So since this is still in pre-order, I'm not going to show you the inside, but you can order that on our site.
I mean, the cover itself is enough, know? Like, if you love sock knitting, there's going to be so much in here for you. If you don't love sock knitting, think about it as not loving sock knitting yet. Yes, this might be the book that gets you into it. I just find these designs so fresh, and just the colors, the structures, really just fun. Looking forward to discovering more about this one.
Well, and it's from Pom Pom Press. You can just feel the vibe, right? So here's the latest issue of Pom Pom as well. So this is the autumn 2022 issue. This has been out for a little bit. I think this might be our last copy, actually. Of course, we can always order again if it's something that you want. There's some really great color work in here.
Yeah, beautiful.
Just gorgeous.
I don't know how.
That's the other one. I love this.
Oh yeah, that's a lovely one by the Petite Knitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just delicate Puris, beautiful colors. So
it is a very delicate issue, this one.
Like it has a very...
It's gentler. It's like a country walk and a cup of tea. And yeah.
It's beautiful. Lots and lots that I want to check out. You can tell I'm about to start looking through it instead of podcasting. And then just to finish off our books, we've had it in for a little bit, but we never really got the chance to talk about it. Embroidery by Aruna.
And I will kind of take
Yeah.
a little bit of a tangent here to tie it into these needlepoint sets that we have from a local company, Fil Relax, which puts together kits. And they've got a needlepoint kit with
designs.
2 designs. It's a smaller one and a larger one by Aruna Kunaraj of Buku, who did this embroidery book. So these are a fantastic companion set. Maybe you're looking for an extra special gift or something like that. To have these together would be great. I think that while this book doesn't directly address this kit, there are definitely tips and tricks for managing yarn, getting started, tensioning tools in this book that are going to be really helpful with this kit. Having said that, the kit comes
With everything you
completely
need.
everything you need, all the instructions.
Let's open it up and show that the design looks
Yeah.
like.
And it comes in this cute little bag that you can use again later. And it doesn't come with a hoop or any kind of frame because you don't need one for the needlepoint. So I'm going to be delicate with it because I want to make sure that it's good for people who come along and buy this. But you've got these adorable little bobbins of yarn. And then you've got a pre-printed needlepoint. Maybe if I hold the bag behind it?
Yeah, there you
we
go. That's good. And there's a needle in there. Be careful.
Yes. You get the needle in there. You've got this really nicely finished needlepoint fabric. And the design is already printed on there for you. So this is a smaller one.
Yeah, and there's like a full instruction kit on nice card in both languages, French and English.
And this is the larger one. And it just, I think, would provide, I'm really tempted to pick one up for myself. I think it would provide just such a refreshing alternative to knitting, really rhythmic, really repetitive, no thought work really involved because having the printing done for you is really quite special. Just having the confidence that
Yeah, and and it's
But
like
it's gonna
designed
turn
by
out.
someone who does such incredible work.
Yeah.
It's like but setting yourself up for success if it's the first time you're trying something
That's
like
it.
this. And then having
Exactly.
something that really would be adorable framed or
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've seen a few different uses for the final project. There are pictures online, framed, of course, but also maybe stitched onto a bag or the back of a denim jacket.
Yeah.
Be really cool.
Yeah.
So all sorts of things you can do with it, and they make just fantastic gifts for teens, for older kids who want to try something.
Yeah.
It does require obviously some hand-eye coordination and dexterity.
Dexterity.
That may make it less suitable for younger children, but just sort of, I don't know, just
Yeah.
so
Yeah, well,
for everybody.
we're always excited to be in the Aruna business.
Oh,
Her stuff's
absolutely.
so beautiful. She does make it look so easy.
I know.
But in
I
this
know.
case, I think this also makes it actually easy.
Actually easy to get those beautiful signature shapes and florals of her
work,
her
yeah.
work. So a great place to start if you want to embroider like Aruna.
Yeah. So we have a couple of interesting books coming on pre-order, but one that has arrived at the moment is Salt and Timber by Lindsay Fowler. And so this is very much knits inspired sort of by the West Coast, the Pacific Northwest. It's a beautiful hardcover book with gorgeous sort of subtle colors, subtle tones, that sort of overcast Pacific Northwest feeling is all through it. And I think that it's full of texture, if that's something that you love to knit, and simple, elegant, timeless knits.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to find in here. So I definitely recommend going have a look on the website where you can actually see some of the projects. It's really typical of Lina Publishing. It's beautifully put together. Again, talk about that mood setting, right? Where it's like you want to look at that picture, you want to be in that picture.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like those knits will get me there.
Yeah.
And beautiful accessories as well as sweaters and shawls. And I find that that's sometimes what is, if anything, is missing from these quarterly publications that come out more often. It's a little bit of a wider choice of accessories and hats, mittens, smaller projects.
That's true.
So this book has that really good balance of projects.
Yeah, so that takes... Oh, no, I have one more. This one is called Les Basiques de Mademoiselle Sophie, excuse me. And this actually, the fun story with this is that we've been looking for a really good intro learn to knit book in French for a while. We've tried a few different things, but we've kind of realized, well, why don't we reach out to the experts? And I asked Mona if she would mind reaching out to a couple of different yarn shops in France and ask them what is your go-to? What do you recommend? The way that we go to Knitting Without Tears or Skill Set from MDK. What is that book for you? And this is the overwhelming winner. And so we're so happy to have it on our shelves. It's very fun. You know, it's inspiring. It's got cool like pops of color. So the photography is really lovely. But more than anything, what it has is it has those basic introductory techniques: casting on, knitting your first stitches, purling your first stitches, easy projects at the end, things that are achievable, lots of bigger yarns. So you're going to go fast and furious, you know?
And there are also video techniques. Donc, je pourrais prendre une minute pour en parler en français.
Oui, bien sûr.
De ce livre, parce que je sais qu'on a bien une communauté francophone qui nous écoute notre podcast aussi. C'est Les Basiques de Mademoiselle Sophie. C'est un livre recommandé par des boutiques de laine en France. Et j'aime ça que le sous-titre, c'est Apprenez à tricoter sans stresser. C'est ça l'important aussi, parce que souvent, l'apprentissage de tricot, c'est stressant. On peut avoir des difficultés avec des nouvelles mailles ou quoi que ce soit, mais il y a juste comme des explications, des petits textes intégrales pour juste vous rassurer.
Oui.
Avec les instructions claires et bien expliquées et les projets faciles à réaliser à la fin.
Oui, alors si vous êtes quelqu'un qui veut apprendre, mais aussi
s'avancer un peu.
Oui, enseigner avec à quelqu'un d'autre et vous avez
oui.
besoin de quelque chose, une ressource pour les donner, quelque chose qui ne sont pas toujours dans la téléphone. Qu'est-ce qui arrive là? Ça, c'est une bonne idée.
Donc, maintenant, en français,
Wouhou! Finalement.
avec des vidéos,
Oui.
des 11 modèles.
Oui.
20 vidéos et 11 modèles. Voilà.
Oui.
So, I think we've covered a lot of the new stuff, but we were sort of realizing how much we have around that we continually keep coming back to and loving that we haven't really talked about on the podcast in a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we wanted to just share with you some of our favorite things that maybe you aren't aware of or might prompt your memory that you'd like to try.
Yeah. Should we start with needles and stuff?
Yeah, sure.
So we introduced the C-knit or kinky amibari needles, I guess probably not long after we took over. So,
yeah,
you know,
coming up on a year.
And then for a while there, it was tough to get the needle sets in stock. So we are fully restocked on the full sets. I have the 5-inch ones.
This is the 4-inch.
So they're a lovely sort of satiny bamboo. They have a really nice, easy to connect join. They have, the cables are swivel cables. So we have them in these full sets in these gorgeous little pouches.
These are just beautiful. They have space to add more, and then at the back they have a pouch to hold all the cables and the needle stoppers that they come with. And as Steph said, it's a great join that doesn't actually need any extra tool to twist it in, so that you won't find a key in here, but you don't need one. And I knit my entire folly skirt, like, what's that, over a kilo of yarn on these, and they never unscrewed.
No, they're great for that.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes that is like what hurts. You know, there are people who say, "Oh, I have hand pain." I'm like, "Oh, while you're knitting," I'm like, no, but things like trying to undo my needles will hurt. So this is an interesting option for you if you are finding you have that kind of stress on your wrists.
We have so these are the complete sets. Gives you the impression what complete means. Everything you.
Well, it's basically I think there's 11 or 12 needles depending. They're not the same number of needles.
Okay. Yes, I did notice there was fewer tips in here, but it's still a pretty comprehensive set.
Yes.
The full explanation of everything inside is online, but I wanted to highlight that in contrast to these smaller sets. So there's not much to see. They're in this cute little cardboard, but they are just 4 tips in really convenient pairings. So this is US size 4 through 8, 4, 6, 7, 8, or millimeter 3.54, 4.55. So that's sort of everything you might need for a sweater in one thing.
It's sort of like a DK worsted kit.
Yeah,
I almost think of it.
That's true.
And then the smaller one is sort of a fingering to sport / DK kit. So, you know, especially, you know, when you're got a pattern that's calling for a different needle for your ribbing,
different one for the Colourwork, maybe.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing where you're going to be able to get everything you need for that project, or maybe a couple projects, and get a chance to test out how you like these needles, how do they join, how the cables feel, and then if you do decide to add, you haven't wasted your money on this, because those are going to be the sizes you use over and over again. I mean, how many size 4mm tips do you have?
I know, 3.5, 4, I constantly need more of them. So even if you know already that you do like it, maybe you have this kit or another set, you can sort of add to that, you can expansion pack your kit without buying a whole other $200 whatever dollar kit. You can add these on for $70. I find that's actually really great value for everything that's contained, and kind of like a try before you buy. Well, I mean, you're buying
try.
it.
I guess like a
try before you
sampler pack.
Exactly, a sampler pack.
Yeah, and that's how I started with these. Is I got one of these and I was like, okay, I'm gonna need more.
And so, last word on these. Tell me why I would buy 4-inch or why I would buy 5-inch.
Oh, okay. So 4-inch in general are going to be more flexible. So the shorter tip means that you're going to be able to get a smaller circumference. Because you really need your cord, your cable section of an interchangeable needle to be at least as long as your 2 tips. So if you have 5-inch tips, you need to add more to that cord. So your starting smallest circumference is going to be larger with a 5-inch tip. But a 5-inch tip is easier to hold, easier to grip. So depending on how you hold your needles, I find 4 inches are as short as I can go, because I do tend to use this part of my hands to hold and steady my needles. So if there's nothing there to hold, I end up with hand pain, and I end up with like overly gripping and like worried that my needles are going to slip out. So in general, if I can knit something with a 5-inch tip and I have that available to me, I choose that because it's more ergonomic. I have more control over my needles. So there's always good reasons for both, but 4-inch is certainly a more flexible length if you like to do sleeves. Then of course there's magic loop. So if you're getting to something where you're going to use a magic loop, you may as well use a 5mm tip and have that extra 5-inch tip, so that you have that extra sort of stability.
Yeah, and 4-inch tips will allow you to do a 16-inch circumference for a hat or sweater
sleeve,
collar
maybe.
or sleeve, for example, right out of the box. But again, there are ways around that, and that one functionality may not be worth the difference in comfort for you. If you're used to knitting with fixed needles, those are basically always going to be 5 inches in length, because that's just how they make them.
Unless they're those super shorties. Like when you get into the like little 12 inches, that's where you start
getting... Or even 16-inch, they have shorter tips.
Exactly. So that's why you're seeing a shorter tip on your 16-inch circular. Otherwise you can't fold it, right? It would be too awkward to work with.
It ends up being sort of like a triangle.
Yeah.
So,
what else you got in that basket of
yours? We have a long-awaited restock of Cocoa Knits.
Woo!
Which are constant favourites around here. So, not really anything new, but just to let you know that we have them again. The Stitch Stoppers, perennial favourites. They're sort of a foam that sticks on your needle, definitely grips it, and they don't stretch out, so you can use them over and over again.
Yeah.
We've got them in a few funky colours. This is the earth tone, we've got colourful, we've got black and white. Match them to all your projects. And then, it again has been a while we haven't been able to get the stitch markers, and we do find that these are, I wouldn't say everybody's favourite, but I haven't found anybody who doesn't like them.
Yeah, exactly. There's some people who might say, like, I don't want to spend that much, or I don't need that many, but no one's like, they're not good. They're good.
They are good.
So they're a metal that's actually coated, so they have different colors, so if you're following a lot of patterns, sometimes they'll say, like, put different colored ones.
Yeah, like a unique beginning of round marker. You've got yellow at the beginning of round, and your Raglan markers are green. Or say you have to increase somewhere, but then you also have the boundary of a cable pattern. You can color code across your knitting. So that really helpful.
Yeah. And the fact that they're magnetic, and so they have that metal, but because they have this coating on them, they're not rough at all. They don't catch on your yarn. Yeah. They're just, like all Cocoa Knits products, I find they're very well thought out. They are solving a number of problems, and they may not seem like big problems, but if you've ever knit with something like a stitch marker that's catching in your yarn or sticking on your needle, okay, it's not a big problem, but it's super annoying. Yeah. And like this stuff is all designed not to give you any grief.
Yeah, and they really are the sort of thing where you buy once, you don't think about it ever again. There are 60 in each of these packs.
I could make a box of stitch markers of 60 go at least a year before they're all on my couch.
Then you just clean your couch and you buy them all again. What I also love, and which I definitely don't regret investing in back when I was working on the floor, is the flight of stitch markers, which I think is just a really adorable way to
Yeah, here
reference it.
I'll show the other side of this too, so that you can see like it has
It's got a little tasting of every shape that they do. So if you're not sure you need 60 of one, you can grab, I think it is 5 different styles, 120, 4 each of 6 colours. So what's that? 32. 32 markers of each style.
Yeah.
If it looks like everything just kind of looks a little bit different at this moment,
It's because it is.
battery failure woes.
Yes, so we've changed cameras.
Yeah, we're on a different camera now. Did I do the maker's board after that?
Yes, you did.
Yes.
So yeah, get that
Last
out.
on our coconuts agenda of fantastic tools that we use all the time, the maker's board is an excellent portfolio for holding your paper patterns, holding them up as you knit. It has a great little hands-free stand functionality and can also just function like a book. It stores several sheets of paper. The magnets are really good and
Magnets
strong.
are very, very strong, and I used that when I was working on my folly skirt charts. So, you know, I could have lots of different working copies going. I had blown them up quite large so that I could see what I was doing, and it could hold all of it.
So it does come with several magnets. Don't go by what's on here because this is our store floor model. Everything that's included is on the website listing, but it does work with basically most of the coconut stuff is magnetic, like the little Makers Keep wristlets with the magnet section on them, so you can keep your stitch markers while you put them aside or whatever. You can keep your tapestry needle there for later use, a cable needle if you're using one, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, they're really handy.
This is one of my favorite things I've made. The favorite thing I've made this year, maybe my favorite thing I've made in quite a while, and I realized it's part of what I've learned about myself from just talking in this podcast format, where I'm trying to make sure that I find educative and informational and interesting things to say about my knitting. I've realized about myself that I do, when I make a little bit of extra effort to do a bit of a more intricate pattern, the payoff and the reward I feel is just exponentially larger.
And this is
that's the case with this. This is the
Billy
pullover by Sari Nordland, and it is the platonic ideal of a cabled sweater. You've said it before, I've said it before. I started out maybe trying to do a couple modifications. I wanted to maybe get an antler in here somewhere or an exo, and then I quickly realized within about an inch of trying different things, why mess with perfection? It's got every element you want already. It's just the details, the folded collar. I knit, I think, to the length that Sari recommended. I'm really glad that I took the time to make sure the sleeves were long enough, to make sure it wasn't cropped. I knew I wanted that traditional, not too oversized fisherman Aran fit. And I'm really happy with it.
Oh yeah, and every time you come in wearing it, I think like it looks like something straight out of a fashion shoot or a magazine, but also timeless. But I mean, in the sense that like it looks luxe. And it's just beautiful.
At the same time, it's not fussy. It's got 3 kinds of cables, and the repeat is pretty easy to keep track of and remember. What I did do, I don't usually use many stitch markers to keep track because I kind of just, more often than not, I forget to move them. But I did pay very close attention to moving a removable stitch marker. I used either the coconuts split ring or just one of the little calabash gourd pins that come off clothing to mark which row I cabled on, so I could count up 4, because that's the one thing that I still have trouble reading in my past knitting, is which row was actually the one where I cabled. And it's subtle enough that you often don't realize until quite a bit later that you knit an extra row or you didn't knit enough, and it's really difficult to go back and count. Still, I know some people can do it, but I find it much easier to keep track of that as I go.
I think that's super smart to just know yourself and save yourself the heartache later. Yeah. It's so gorgeous.
I'm really, really pleased with it, and thank you. It kind of has the shape of me wearing it like a bulging elbow, and
but that's
it's the beauty of the yarn.
Beauty of the hand knit too, though, that you're actually wearing it. That's the point.
So this is Knitting Gilead, which has this absolutely perfect construction for something like this. It's half worsted spun, half woolen spun, so it has that structure and definition from the worsted spinning, but it still has that lightness and loftiness and bounce from the woolen spinning. It's incredible how it blooms when blocked, proper wet block, soaked a long time. I put it through the spin cycle because that agitation does
Helps
bring
it
up the bloom
Yeah.
on it, and I'm really, really happy with it.
Well, that is definitely gorgeous. So you could wear this as another Rhinebeck sweater.
I could. I'll bring it with me.
Yeah, for sure.
I've been wearing it with sweatpants at the cottage all weekend, and it was comfier than a sweatshirt for lounging in. So that's
Yeah, I
a
can
good sign.
believe it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's gorgeous. And I think that's a good one to take us out on.
Yeah.
And
With that, we'll sign off.
yeah, and so we'll see you next time. We'll be back from Rhinebeck, hopefully with lots of stories, photos, video. If we take it, we'll see what we'll see what happens.
I often at busy times, I'm just like, we were talking about my wedding. You barely took any. You took some really cute photos for like.
But then I was like,
I didn't take any photos. I just, you forget to because you're in the moment, and that's really nice.
yes, it is, and obviously we want to balance that so that we can show you guys what we saw. If you're not able to go, we want to be able to share it with you, but also take a few minutes or a few hours to put our phones away and just be there.
Totally.
So yeah, if you're going to be at Rhinebeck, if you're going to be in New York, please come say hi if you see us. We'd love to say hello.
Yeah. And so please don't be
shy
or hesitant or anything, because we're sometimes also shy and hesitant, and we just want to say hello.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll either see you there or we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Until then, happy knitting.